cohesion here, right? So these guys coming together under that same roof, that same banner. What should we look out for with tendencies? Are they going to play slow? How are they going to approach this?
I was actually talking with TBA. I like to talk with the players before they get into their matches, see how they're feeling. You know, is this your first big event? And it sounds like these guys is their first real LAN event for TBA. So they've kind of put, terrifying. You know, they kind of put their squad together, been practicing. They're proud that they made it here, but you know they're trying to get to that next step. So team cohesion for TBA might be a little bit of an issue because they said they formed rather recently. If you want, That
is certainly probably putting them a little bit at unease. But we do have the map vetoes in. The first map we're going to see is Ruins of Sarnath, and a pick by On Time. I could say, does this surprise? I mean, how do we see this one playing out on Sarnath?
Sarnath has been a popular pick for Sacrifice. Not surprised to see it again. I really like how it plays. I think people enjoy the asymmetrical nature of it. I feel like the Obelisk by the Super Nail Gun seems to be the favorite choice. So I think it's a popular map because of that asymmetrical nature, and you see it picked a lot.
Well, to be announced or On Time. That is what we're here to watch. We're going to throw it over right now to Blue and Jahar standing by.
All right, thank you very much, guys. And it is indeed time to jump into this match between On Time and To Be Announced. Let's get into it as the Soul is about to spawn in round number 1 in about 5 seconds.
Absolutely, it's going to be another huge mosh pit as Waz is just looking to nail down as many nails as possible. But we do have the Soul going back up to rocket launcher. It's going to be a handy weapon for anybody wanting to run it back. But we have Waz on the priority for the pickup. It's not going to happen just yet, though. But it looks like we do have Obelisk A being grabbed. B being grabbed by To Be Announced. So they've made their choice. They were not going for the Super Nail Gun Obelisk. I mean, you do have that jump pad there. You have armor. You have all these long lines of sight for the railgun. It's incredibly handy, but Spectre is going to be a little bit weaker off as he's trying to play the defense. We have a huge attack coming from TBA, trying to make sure that this Soul stays exactly where it is.
Spectre was doing some amazing work, got easily 4 or 5 kills before he finally ended up going down to Brick there, and the Soul got stolen away, but it only made itself all the way about halfway across the map here before it was dropped again and now being picked up by the members of TBA. They're trying to run it back the other direction. The Soul's changed hands at least 3 to 4 times in the last couple of seconds here, but ultimately at the end of the day, TBA grabs control of the Soul once again, and Guilty is going to complete the run itself. However, he does have to bust out the gauntlet to take down one more player before they can really stay secure, and even then, it's not secure as they have more players rolling in from On Time.
That Obelisk certainly does invite a lot of attack once you realize that the defense doesn't really have much in terms of weapons, no rail, no LG, but as we see players start to fall off their feet, those weapons will indeed get picked up, but again, bodies are just going to be trading, and Matt Kelly, now we're starting to see the insane rails coming out of him. The Soul's still taken, and he cannot quite get that last fadeaway rail as it escapes back out to the other side, so we might see the first points from On Time starting to accrue, but they're still moving through the power, they're still moving through rocket launcher to effortless, now trying to make that rocket jump not so effortless for him though, as it gets dropped on out. Guilty getting a ton of frags as that scale bearer.
Overextended a little bit there, that last Soul carrier, and now it's going back under the control of To Be Announced. They're actually just holding the Soul here in mid, waiting for the power to spawn so they can grab that. They did get control over the protection here now, and it is going to be the Soul carrier that maintains it as well, but they're surrounded by players from On Time, so they've got to be very careful when running this back and completing the Soul run back into Obelisk A.
Kane trying to play a little bit of interference there, but we do indeed have that capture once again. Points are going up, but as you can see, that protection is going to get dropped down. Still taken away by a TBA player, so they're able to use this one defensively. We have armor coming up as well, and this is going to be an invitation for a lot of rockets and rails. If they have any railguns up here, you really do need that. Otherwise, players like Brick down below can take that railgun and immediately spam up onto everybody trying to defend your own Obelisk.
Yeah, this is of course going to be one of the tough parts, is trying to maintain a full arsenal of weapons across the board with so many players having to constantly pick up the spawns there, so it oftentimes doesn't even leave those weapons available when you run past those spawns, which is unlike the duel format where it's almost always going to be up there unless a player is intentionally trying to deny those pickups. Well, there's a bit of a skirmish to get control over the Soul right now. Ultimately, On Time looks like they're finally going to be able to get their first cap, but just inches away from the cap itself. They do drop it, but there's another teammate there to grab it and complete the cap.
And finally, we have points starting to accrue for On Time here. It's going to come down to the defensive play. How much time do they have to set up those positions, set up those rail angles? I mean, there's so many really great platforms that allow you to rail on down to the railgun pickup itself, catch anybody trying to come out of the heavy armor room, but right now, Effortless is taking damage from all sides, trying to deal with everybody at once. Spectre's going to be diving down into the armor room, and this is some place where you can have the game slow down a little bit, but once you come back out of there, of course, everybody's going to be ready for the fight. Spectre moving back into LG or rail, but those stairs, of course, are always such a death trap.
Kelly moving in there, he is able to drop the Soul Runner once more, but not going to be able to stop himself himself from being taken down by Brick just a couple of moments later there. As the Soul Carrier constantly continues to change hands, but Brick will finally complete the run. There is a Scale Bearer over here from TBA trying to run it himself, but he's alone, so he's going to find himself dead pretty quickly.
And this moment of silence is going to be testing Brick's resolve to catch players out of the teleporter with the rail. He's got the one. He's going to be pretty weak. He's going to decide it's not worth staying there as the power-up is indeed coming back up. We're seeing a lot of TBA players on it, but it's going to be on time getting the pickups of that protection. They're going to be taking it directly on the offense here. Or rather, I'm sorry, on the defense. They're able to hold this down a little bit. I wasn't thinking that they were going to have much of the way of points here, but we are starting to see them catch back up.
Yeah, the protection is going to be a big boost over here now to the guys from On Time as they are able to move in and have Saigib just basically stand around the point, make sure that he can bully anyone that is trying to steal the soul away from the obelisk itself. He does pop his stealth a little bit here to try and take a reappear. There we go, quick from the shadows, Vettel getting picked up by him on a killing spree too before he finally ends up going down. And I think that was just as the protection was about to fade anyway, so his time had faded out, and now Waz can move in, mop up the rest of these offenders over here from TBA, and restore the peace for the time being.
Anytime they're able to turn these situations into a 2-on-1 or even just a 1-on-1, taking focus off the obelisk itself is definitely a huge benefit to On Time. As you can see, they're winning a lot of these individual skirmishes, so it's going to be up to TBA to crowd around, find the rail angles, and do a lot of damage before they even get there. As you can see, Effortless is already incredibly low on health. It's a long time before this item comes back up, but they still want to be able to move through the heavy armor, through the rocket launcher room to get the weapons and get the fight taken back over to On Time's side.
Effortless actually going to be put into a little bit of a rough spot here, so he will end up going down to Spectre, which will give him a little bit more room to actually push back up and get good control over this obelisk to steal the soul away finally. Saigib jumping back out of stealth, though. Beautiful stuff from him as he's able to move in, and you can see just all these medals rolling across the screen, specifically for Saigib. Beautifully done by him as he pops into that stealth, takes out multiple players along with his teammates there, and they're just ripping apart any attempt from TBA to get offensive here and steal away the soul now.
It's like Saigib doesn't even need to pop his Ghost Walk for nobody to be able to see it. Every time we cut to him, he is at some oblique angle, doing a ton of damage without anybody really knowing where he's at, and that is giving them a lot of head start here. It's giving them a lot of room to play, and it looks like that might even give them the first round.
Saigib trying to swing over here, just make sure that they get that power up, but in all honesty, they won't even be needing it as they're well past 99% here. Just needing that one final tick, and they'll be able to sacrifice it, and there you go. It's going to be On Time to take round one.
Oh man, I mean, we saw TBA take that initial obelisk and get up to 44%, but once it got taken back by these guys, it never left their hands. So really well done, really amazing play. And again, I just want to call out Saigib was just in the right place at the right time every time.
Absolutely. So beautiful stuff. Beautiful recovery too, as the guys from On Time started off pretty far behind in that round overall there, and it was looking like they were going to lose this one pretty handily to TBA. But right around when TBA was getting up towards about 50% on their offense is when things kind of switched, and we really saw On Time take control from that point forward.
All right, well, once again, it's going to be a bit of a weapon play as the soul spawns back up, and as it's taken into the hallway, it's going to be a huge choke point. We're going to have to see who chokes on it here, as Waz is going to be popped up into the stratosphere and railed out of it as well. Effortless with the nice dual kill as that Zorlag. He's going to be the one to finally take it home and secure that obelisk that they wanted. Now, again, that's an obelisk that's not a lot of teams would actually want for themselves, but as you can see, once they can get a rail, they can hold on to a pretty good defense here.
Yeah, so beautiful play from Effortless. You can see he got the Epidemic medal there too, which was I believe all three of it spits up the connect for you to be able to get that medal. So nicely done from him. Make sure that he gets all that damage in off the spit there, so maximize the damage basically. Matt killing him trying to move in, but he's just destroyed by Waz. Spectre also trying to hold on here so that he can steal the soul away. But at the moment, it's all on time as they come in. They drop Spectre. Kane does trade a kill into Brick, but I think that's happening a little bit further on the point, so it's not really going to matter too much right now. Effortless trying to hold on here too, as he takes down Guilty and avoids getting taken down by the charge. Still a few stragglers around the site, but they have control of it.
You have to be able to cover these stairs as a defending player, but once you see a Scale Bearer hopping up there, it's very difficult to keep your cool, but Effortless is almost nothing but cool. Effortless completely dominating these angles with rockets, trying to get as much information out of these dinks as possible. But of course, with 20 seconds left, he might be realizing that, hey, everybody's starting to shift towards a position on the power-up, and I've only got 29 health as a Sorlike. How much health am I going to be?
Yeah, he's got to be really careful. You can see him hiding around the walls here just to make sure that he doesn't get completely taken out. He'll push back in, is able to take down Guilt with the rocket. But taking Guilty out here once again restores the peace, but now as his teammates started to shift away to look for the power pickup, they left that side open, so more than likely you can expect the theft to come in. But in theory, these guys should be able to get the power because of the amount of players they shifted away. But that's not going to be the case, actually. It's TBA that gets the power, so they have the quad too.
and that's going to allow them to run the Soul almost all the way back over to their obelisk. It's going to be Spectre coming back in, hopefully finishing the fight, but he's only got 11 health. He's going to need to put himself in a position where he can drop the quad and allow a teammate to get it, but it's going to be dropped down there in the water. It's a huge skirmish down here in the armor room, and that means that getting out of there is going to be no easy task, allowing everybody else to, have a moment to breathe, maybe get a weapon, and be ready for that fight on the choke point.
TBA finally does get a cap going though, so they are starting to channel in their favor, just past 5%, so they've got a lot of ground to make up considering they let their opponents get well up to 60% before they finally were able to steal it away. And now, once again, they're going to find them stealing it. Guilt charging in just to make sure they can easily toss that back onto his own team's obelisk, and that's exactly what he is going to do. Taking out most of these offenders, everyone from On Time is going to get pushed back, and TBA does have control for now.
And the glacial play from Guilty and the rest of his team, I mean, playing as at scale there, you're not going to be getting anywhere fast, but once you get there, it's going to be very difficult to remove you. And Guilty wants to make sure that he's got all these rail angles. He's able to see Saigon coming around the corner, take him on down, but now he's going to be taking a bit of damage from the top. Brick's not going to quite realize he's there. Are we going to see Choo Choo v Choo Choo? Not so much. It's going to be TBA still racking up the points, but man, they are swarming around the obelisk.
And now Effortless following his Soul Bearer, as they are going to be able to take that over to the other side of the map. Unfortunately, everyone from TBA is going to be waiting for them, so they need to try and get through these opponents to get this cap going, along with preventing the recap. Nicely done by Brick, holds his own, but unfortunately up close. Spectre is going to be able to take him back down. The Soul is right on top of his team's obelisk. They don't have the cap just yet. Saigon is going to use the stealth to break away from this one, lining up another nice rail. A teammate hit one too. Saigon just going off right now. Look at these rails from Saigon, ripping these players apart, and finally they get that cap restored for themselves and are past 70% now.
I am getting major flashbacks to Troubled Waters, both Saigon and Brick just rocking with amazing rails, as you mentioned. But now it's going to be Brick in the rocket launcher room, making sure that the play for the power-up is at least somewhat in his hands. He's holding on to a little bit of health, and here comes the charge. It's not going to be an item that goes to him, but it certainly does go to a teammate, which is all you need at the end. So Brick coming back in here with the Soul. This should be a really good setup from them. Waz already has a rail. He's got nail gun to make sure that the stairs are covered as well. We see that Nick's ghost walking, so he's going to leave it up and take down Spectre. Really good repositioning for him, and when you're Anarchy, you need to make sure that you're constantly attacking from a different angle than the front.
Yeah, and On Time can all just fall back now and look at the defense. They still have another minute and a half. Obviously, as the power up is still active right now with Waz having it. And Waz, again, also going off these rails. The rails overall for On Time are very impressive as they're up to 99% now, pushing back every single attempt to punish them and steal that Soul away. So beautifully done. On Time holds on strong and consistently in the second round, and they take the first map 2-0.
Nice little victory dance there as everybody's just kind of, chilling, checking their phones, making sure that they're ready for the next one. They're actually looking a little grim here, like they might not be too happy with it, but you've got to be happy with at least that first map win. It gives you some confidence going into the next one. We're gonna have to see if they have anything to worry about going into map 2.
You guys will note all of the different setups that are being used here too. Brick with the most dramatic one, having his monitor tilted like 40 degrees to the left, and then the keyboard on his lap as well. That's something that I think is much more common among Quake players than some of the other games that I've come from, where you only see it once in a blue moon.
Yeah, the competition, both in terms of the game and ego between European and American players, has always been a standard. But you do see a few American players kind of picking up on these styles and making good use of them. But again, when you're potentially playing a game for 20 years and you're starting the game with nobody really telling you the right or wrong way to hold your keyboard and mouse, you find the way that works for you, and sometimes that's what you stick with for several decades.
Yeah, and the rumor is that it comes mainly from Russian players, I believe. The whole keyboard on your lap thing. In fact, like obviously I mainly do Counter-Strike stuff, and there's a lot of players there that actually, mainly just Russian players, actually like the tier 2 Russian players. A lot of them do that, but actually when you look at like the tier 1 guys and all that completely goes away. So it's weird. It's weird to see that every once in a while, but then you come to Quake and you see it pretty commonly because this is where it originated. Was this kind of style of playing here? And
again, I mean, just. You use what you're used to. You find something that you're comfortable with. I know I've gone through a few different setups over the years, and I'm certainly not changing mine now. But a lot of these players, I mean, you can see completely different keyboards, completely different mouse setups, and that's one of the beautiful things about Quake.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody has their own way to play, and what works for them may not work for someone else. So we're just getting everybody back in the lobby, guys, and then we should be good to start off on the second map and hop over to that one, see if it's going to be a quick 2-0 for the winner of map number 1, or if things will change here and we'll go to a map 3. It'll be the first time today. These maps have been pretty straightforward so far, but on Blood Covenant, we've seen how chaotic that one could be. It is open to either team, but it is going to be TBA's pick after On Time to take the last map.
Yeah, just like Burial Chamber, Blood Covenant having two obelisks that are just diametrically opposed to each other, both in terms of space and spacing. As Blood Covenant has one obelisk is kind of similar to the church obelisk in Burial Chamber, where it's huge, it has an open chamber, it has 2 tiers, it has jump pads going up there, and quite a few resources to play with. On the other side, you have this really dense obelisk with almost no room to wiggle. You've got the bridge actually looking down on you, and it's going to be really important as we see play around that obelisk to see the defending players move up to the bridge and not just get attacked from there.
I think generally speaking, we're going to see the church one be preferred a lot more because it also gives you relatively close proximity to the power-up spawn location. So you don't have to overextend as much to be able to actually move up and start to look towards that power-up. But if you do get it, it's a pretty easy fallback over to the site itself. So I think that most of these teams, in my opinion, are probably going to want to look to take control of that. But there are, of course, the benefits to having control of the outside obelisk as well, where you do have the bridge, which you can use to punish. But that can also work against you to the bridge. We've seen plenty of times as well where opponents were moving and no one was punishing them. They were able to just sit up there and either have free reign with rails and rockets and just completely take down all the defenders, which made it easy for his teammates to roll in and steal the soul with no problems at all.
If you're being aggressed on that obelisk, for sure, you're going to have a lot of trouble from the bridge. But if you can get just a moment to breathe and step back up there, it can give you a lot of extra room, a lot of extra angles, and a lot of extra chance to make sure that that map is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to be looking to see some of the highlight players, of course, from that first map show back up again. We had some good moments from Spectre, specifically towards the beginning with his rail work to hold things off. Saigib had some amazing moments as well there. Overall, quite a few players had their highlights and getting, you know, multiple. We saw them getting 3-4 kills in a matter of seconds a lot of the time.
And a lot of that is just experience that you're seeing. I mean, these guys have had railguns in their hands since they were wee lads. And now as they come back into Quake Champions, I mean, the neat thing about this mode is that while you do have a lot of the team play, a lot of the passing the soul back and forth, once you're set and once you are able to have that soul accruing points on your own obelisk, you can kind of play a bit more TDM. You can kind of set up positions, you can figure out where all the aggressive angles are coming from and punish every single player who comes your way.
Well, guys, we are loading into that second map now, so the players are getting ready to get started here. In just a couple of moments, we will be ready to resume the fight here and get to see if we will have On Time pushing through, taking a clean 2-0 victory, or if their opponents, TBA, will now strike back on their own map pick and allow them to send this over to a third and final map on Burial Chamber.
I still want to say that these guys look a little bit stressed out. I mean, it was a very decisive and very competent first map there. I would be thinking that they would be a little bit more jovial, as we've seen from some of the teams here, but man, they're completely stone-faced.
Yeah, absolutely. They're all still going to be very focused. Obviously, there's a lot on the line here, the qualification for QuakeCon. Some of these guys may have missed qualification yesterday for the dual tournaments. This may be their one and only chance now to actually make it into the QuakeCon main event and go for that very big $300,000 prize pool for first place at the main event, happening a little bit later in the month.
It's cruel to remind players of this, but not everybody's going to be going to QuakeCon this year. I mean, we have a lot of people here in the studio who, you know, this will be the last time we see them before QuakeCon.
Yeah, absolutely. Same for the European guys, as we saw them playing it out earlier, of course. They had their own qualifiers. We had some very well-known names among the eSport community playing in the European qualifiers earlier, so that was good to see some of those guys showing up and having some fun there.
Absolutely, and a few players who actually haven't competed in a long time, and that again is a great thing about Quake Champions, bringing a lot of people together. But as we come together right now on this next map, we're going to be following Waz out of the gate, getting a pretty decent spawn, one that gives him a bit of breathing room. You can see literally everybody else is creating some distance here, and it really looks like On Time is creating this wall between to be announced and the soul itself. So this should be a pretty clean grab, but no, once you realize that Scale Bear is going to be the one getting it, you just best get out of his way.
And that Scale Bear is on a bull rush, no pun intended, over towards the preferred obelisk for himself and the rest of his team. And that is going to be what I was saying earlier. It's going to be the church obelisk, because they do choose to go for this one. They have close proximity to the power-up. It's a little bit more easily defended. There are a few more routes into the site itself, but as long as you're paying attention to those, it is a pretty straightforward. It's mainly choke point focus, so it's not as easy to get into this site and steal the soul away.
Yeah, like you said, very similar to Burial Chamber here, but at the same time, that distance means that you have that much longer to run, and that much longer where you can get railed in the back. So you've got to be incredibly nervous every time you're trying to get the soul back over there. But it's escaping, it's out. We have an Anarchy running the soul, and Saigib right now, as that Nick's trying to play a little bit of interference here. And it's going to be working out as we have On Time finally getting a grab of a few points on their obelisk.
Effortless trying to move in there and get some aggression going, as now their opponents have stolen away the soul, but they've been unsuccessful. Saigib pushing back in, trying to prevent the soul from getting tossed away. He did take down the initial carry. In fact, actually, Waz is getting most of those kills. Brick, too, getting another kill in there. 3 quick kills to knock him out, and with that, they retrieve the soul. That was only stolen for a few seconds. They're only a couple % away now from actually tying up against what TBA already channeled on their initial cap, but they have to stop this contention, as otherwise that is going to slow the progress.
Kane coming in here with the Ghost Walk, trying to play a little bit sneaky to try to sneak that Soul away. But Saigib is up on top of the bridge, playing that defensive game and making sure that nobody's going to be getting anything for free. But of course, frags here are incredibly important. You do have 5 seconds between respawns, and when they do respawn, they're likely going to be spawning in front of you if you're trying to run a Soul back and forth. So you've got to time your attacks and your runs through the map very carefully.
Oh, wow, it's nicely played there. Was able to get out of the way of the charge for the Scale Bear and throw the Soul back over to his teammate. Moves in just in time, too, to support the Nyx teammate who is going in to pick up the protection. So they have that going for them, too. That Nyx is going to be so hard to deal with protection, because now we can see it. She's running around the map aggressively, making sure that she's able to really just stop anyone from even getting close to this point. Well outside over there, picking up rails and whatnot. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out now, as everyone from TBA is going to get pushed back as a result of this aggressive Nyx.
And I appreciate the teamwork out of Effortless there, just playing that Sorlag, making sure that it's going to be Saigib as a Nyx, getting the grab for the armor instead of taking it for himself, making full use of that protection. You can see that Nyx was able to check in with the base, say, okay, everything seems fine here. I'm going to go back mid-map, get some more info, and maybe even some more blood. But we've got Saigib here trying to give everybody in front of him as he moves back up to the bridge. And man, everybody's going to be cresting the top of that hill, going immediately invisible and just trying to smoke everybody out, smoking them out of the air as well, making that a killing spree, and even finding players at the railgun.
Saigib is an absolute monster right now. Beautiful play with the Shadow Walk, just using it to get behind his opponents and then rip the shreds. 2 quick kills for him, gets the assist on the 3rd one, I believe. And now just gets aggressive again. He's going to go up over here on top of the rail bridge. Rocket's beautifully positioned, is able to get another kill, and now back over to the primary bridge to be able to keep holding off these opponents as they attempt to push back in, but are having no luck as a result of Saigib just constantly destroying them, along with Effortless and the rest of Team On Time.
It's really difficult to be in the middle of these melees as a Nyx, but man, Saigib is just pulling out all the stops here. Brick is the one making all the stops, but there's Matt Kelly getting a beautiful Dire Orb on him, and we should see a bit of a steal. We have 3 players from To Be Announced on the obelisk looking for the steal, but the exit might not be so easy. It's a good pass over to Guilty. He's going to be a Scale Bearer. He's not going to be the fastest one to get through the map, but that bull rush will indeed help.
Yep. As he is trying to run it, and he will, I think, just make it over to the obelisk and takes down another opponent as he's going down there. So prevents an immediate re-steal. He did indeed cap it for his team, so they're going to get back onto the board here too, but not for long, as it is looking like they're trying to steal it. Looks like they avoided that though, as now we have another power coming back in. Matt Kelly going to try to port back in and drop this power up, as it did get dropped onto the ground, but I'm unsure as to who exactly picked it up there, so we'll figure that out in a second.
Well, power up or not, Guilty is going to, well, there we have it. It's going to be Sorlag with a protection, but immediately taken down by Guilty. Effortless had a bit of trouble there, but there's the pass back up to the bridge. Make that take 2. It's good this time, but we have Guilty maybe running a little bit of protection down below. We're going to have Effortless back over to the rail and hopefully finding an angle to make sure that they can get these last 2 points on their obelisk without any effort.
Protection going down back into the control of On Time as they once again recapture that soul and finally sacrifice the obelisk, allowing them to take round 1 in this second map.
Man, a lot of back and forth there, but we saw fantastic rail play out of all these guys. We saw fantastic power play, and they were even able to take control of the bridge. A lot of calm under pressure from these boys.
Absolutely. So good stuff from On Time, and I mean, Saigib, again, let's just talk about his play in that map there. The really great stuff from the Nyx perspective that we were seeing there, especially when he was able to get the protection and really get aggressive and push back out of that beautiful Shadow Walk play that we ended up seeing at 1.2. And well, look what we're going to start it off on. Another Shadow Walk play potentially from Saigib here. He's going to move in, hunts down the Scale Bearer, and that's their main strat too. So this is actually really good because this runs great interference, and it forces them to make a second plan now to get initial control over the soul.
Before you saw everybody but the Scale Bearer kind of avoiding that soul, but now once you realize that he's dead, you have to go, all right, no, we need this right now. Just get in there and get gauntleting and get rocketing. And we do indeed have TBA taking control of the obelisk.
Guilty, though, thankfully off the respawn on that soul bearer, is able to move in really quickly, get the charge onto the soul itself, and make sure that they cap their preferred obelisk. However, now, immediately, once again, On Time is going to be able to steal that and take it back over here into the church obelisk, but there's going to be players immediately running interference on that one. In fact, they don't even cap it, it just goes right into the hands of another player from TBA.
Not something that they wanted at all, but we're going to have to see On Time here actually playing a little bit of a different game as they now have a different obelisk to defend. We're going to have to see how well they can do that as we see TBA just trying desperately to pass it to somebody who has more than 20 health. Jeez, that's a lot of damage that they took down there in the LG. But as we have a bit of a skirmish here in the pillars, Matt Kelly's going to be coming over the top, over the bridge, trying to get the cap on the Soul, but it's not going to happen just yet. Kane with a few beautiful rail shots.
Yeah, and on time again, looking to steal it away. They've got a pretty clean path. Kane's going to be getting in the way of them a little bit here, but he's going up against Saigon. It's a dangerous player to take down, but he handles it. Pops his own stealth and works his way onto the site where he's going to try to go pop out of the stealth and take down the skill bearer. Charge attempt fails, but finally, we will end up seeing Kane go down to Waz just before he was about to steal away that Soul. Regardless, though, teammates are able to move in, working off of the damage that his teammate just did for him and steal the Soul away from the Obelisk.
We saw Effortless there, not quite wanting to commit to the fight. He wants to be ready. He has a fresh stack. He has a railgun. Wants to be ready on this power-up as it comes up. And we do have the Soul trading hands just at this point. We do have a protection going to... No, it's going to be a quad. I'm sorry. Going to the Soul carrier, going to an Anarchy. And it's going to be going to the Obelisk very, very shortly here.
So that's going to be, once again, the guys from On Time able to take that one. And finally, they take the lead here. It was tied at 8% for the longest while. Waz even having himself the quad damage here, too. And it looks like TBA is not even making an attempt at this just yet. They are still kind of regroup, get themselves together before they do push back in and actually attempt to steal this way. Problem is that they got to be careful with peeking as that quad damage is there waiting for them. And Waz, perfect stuff. These little stragglers trying to move back in and do bits of damage. Just not working out. And Waz taking him down, but finally, he gets countered out by Guilty.
That's certainly got to ease things up here for him. I mean, once you realize that you have a defending player in the Obelisk room with a quad, maybe you go, hey, maybe this is the best time to be pushing in, but the time is getting short on them here as frags are trading off and the attack is certainly coming to Obelisk A. Saigib popping his Ghost Walk, trying to play a little bit defensively, just trying to just waste a lot of time and make these really long-winded fights. Any time taken off of the Obelisk is good for him.
So nicely done there with the Ghost Walk abilities, and now Saigib using the stealth to keep himself alive. Got another kill off of that one, survives to play another day here. Nicely done from Saigib, and oh, another rail shot connecting for him. He is going to get pushed on here by Guilty in a second, though, but nicely done. He uses the double jump to straight up dodge it. He will still eventually go down, though, and that's the unfortunate part about the Knicks is that if you do not have the Ghost Walk ready to go, you'll find yourself dead on the ground really, really quickly.
But wasting time is still the name of the game here, as On Time is still taking it back over to their own Obelisk, and these points are coming up. TBA still only at 8%, and we have not seen the fight leave the Church Obelisk in such a long time. Waz right now looking for a few more rail angles as there's a Scale Bearer lurking in the rafters, looking to drop down and maybe take this thing away. But it's going to be a Sorlag here who's going to be making the actual play on the Obelisk itself. Nobody's really paying that much attention to Waz. There we finally have Kane nailing him down.
Saigib from on top. He might actually be the last hope for defense currently, but he does not want to risk peeking into his opponent directly on there, as a lot of them are out fighting for control over the power, which is just about to explode. Matt Kelly is actually still running around his opponent's Obelisk, so he needs to get out into the open here and actually start this run towards the other side, as the quad damage has been picked up, and he's going to run right outside. Quad to the ground. He can actually just take it off the ground, so that works out great for Matt.
Who's running the quad? You are. Matt Kelly's going to have the quad. He's going to have the Soul. He's going to be doing the damage, having all these fights as he's just trying to make his way back to the Obelisk. And he's fighting two players. Yeah, there won't be much contest there. That was just throwing bodies at the quad carrier, almost taking him down. But that now has TBA in possession of the Soul.
So Matt Kelly getting quite a bit for free, and that is going to cause most of On Time to hold back here for a little bit longer. But actually, no, Matt Kelly moves out, gets another double kill before finally losing that power, but it doesn't even matter. He leaps right back onto the point, pummels another player, knocks him out with rockets, and that has forced most of On Time back to regroup.
Yeah, just about acing the enemy team will give to be announced the time that they need to just breathe, relax just a moment, and get some weapons before this next fight comes back up. And Kane is really starting to turn on his own rail himself here. Really impressive stuff as he's kind of taking a back route and actually touching that bull rush. And down here at the armor, of course, there's going to be a lot of bodies falling as the Soul trades hands. Brick is going to be over the top, coming back in very soon, but Waz just wants to stay at home safely, keeping the Soul in their possession.
Waz managing to cap it there at the very least, so once again, ticking up progress for On Time here. They're less than 20% away. Great stuff from Waz there as he's taking down players on the move. Finally gets knocked out by Kane a couple seconds later, but Saigib, again, saves the day here with some clutch kills. He's got support from his Scale Bearer sitting up on top there, too. But the Soul Actor is actually going to cause some trouble. They do steal the Soul away, it gets tossed off, but they're going to be able to catch that and recap it here in a second. Now, once again, pushing up towards that 99% marker.
It will be very, very close here for Saigib and crew as they're looking for these last few points on the Obelisk. And this will indeed potentially give them the series, give them the advancement in the bracket, and there it is.
And nicely done from the guys on Time. They're going to take it a flawless run there, 4-0 across both of their maps, and they take the series 2-0. So they will be pushing onward, as you said, into the next stage of the bracket here, and they should just be one more match away from qualifying into QuakeCon.
They still look very stone-faced. I mean, I see these guys late at night, and they are some of the loudest players here. I think they would actually be competing with Team Johnson in terms of how rambunctious they are. But as you can see, when it's crunch time, it's all serious business.
Absolutely. And so, I believe now, guys, we are going to take it over to our analysts to break down this match.
Breaking it down, we